Hello, everyone. This is Reverend Richard Miner. I'm the Graduate Engagement Officer here at One Spirit Learning Alliance, and I am very happy today to be here with Reverend Therese Bimka. She is the Director of the Interspiritual Counseling Program, and she is a graduate of the Seminary of 2008. Therese, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Richard. It's great to be with you.
It is such a pleasure to have you. I have been looking forward to this for so long. You are such an important part of our community, and you have been for so long. And I just think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to introduce you to some of our graduates who may not know you or may not have had the pleasure of meeting you yet. So I would like to jump right in with the first question that I always like to ask people. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what brought you to One Spirit?
So I joined the seminary when I was 48 years old, and I was really wanting to approach my 50th year with great intentionality. And I had already had a very diverse path to spirit, from goddess-based spirituality to indigenous, nature-based. I was very inspired by several of the Eastern contemplative practices, and art and creativity have been a very big portal for me for spirit. So I really was looking for a place where I can deepen my commitment to spirit and make a more intentional relationship, consistent, intentional relationship with God. And that was my intention when I joined the seminary program in 2006.
Wow, that sounds like you had quite an amazing experience before you came to One Spirit, that you had already experienced a lot of spirituality from a lot of different angles. What kind of work did you do before you came to seminary? What were you doing with your life before you joined One Spirit?
Well, my work life has taken many different twists and turns. I made a commitment when I was very early on, when I was in my early teenage years. I made a commitment to my work life that was very, it was kind of like a contract, a sacred contract, you might say, that whatever work I was to be doing in this world would need to meet two criteria. It had to, in some way, be of service, making the world a better place in some form. And I needed to be growing in some way. That whatever work I was doing those were my two non-negotiables. And so I worked for many years as an activist and as a paid activist at times, not that it paid very well, but it was my full-time employment for a while. And I was a professional artist and an art teacher, and very involved and immersed in the mural movement in New York City. And we loved to call ourselves cultural workers at the time. So that whole chapter of my life was probably about a 20-year stretch.
Wow.
I was very immersed, very connected. And I always taught art to children and adults as both a vehicle for social change and as a way of accessing the deep self and a way of coming into contact with self-discovery. So that was my world for quite a while. I began to hear some whispering on the soul level that it was time for something else. And at 35, I made a career switch, and got my second master's degree in social work. And I've been working in different agency settings and primarily in private practice since 1995, working with children, families, and adults, and really formulating my own unique blend of psychotherapy and spirituality. And just delighted to be able to do that work. It's been a tremendous gift to me and a tremendous blessing in my life.
Well, I know you have been a great blessing and a great inspiration to many of our students here at One Spirit. And I just have to say that I love your two non-negotiables. I think those are both very noble endeavors. And I applaud you for sticking to that, because that's not always an easy thing to do in the day and age that we live in. When you were at One Spirit, what was your experience like as you were bringing these wonderful goals and this amazing life experience to seminary? Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what the experience of One Spirit was like moving through the program?
Yeah. You know, I took my commitment and my studies at One Spirit very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I really plunged in and put One Spirit in the front seat of the car. Um, and I have to say that my time in seminary was one of the most transformative experiences in my life.
Mm-hmm.
One of the deep, deep healings I had was in the interpersonal realm. Even though I had done all this wonderful work in the world, my experience had often been that groups were not always such a safe place. I hadn't had that many wonderful group experiences. Groups were often places where I think many of us can feel re-wounded. And so to be in a place at like One Spirit where there was so much careful attention paid to making a very safe and container where we can really show up in our true authenticity, to be known, to be seen, was so profound for me. It was truly a reparative experience, and something that we work very hard at creating at ISC as well, is a very deeply intimate, safe container for the deep curriculum, for the deep work. So that was enormous for me, was the interpersonal safety that Diane Burke is able to create, as well as the other staff. One of my most meaningful experiences in seminary really had to do with our 15 hours of service, which I always felt was too minimal a requirement. But having come out of graduate school and knowing the value of an internship, I decided to take that 15 hours very seriously. And through a whole circuitous route of synchronicities, I ended up at the Osborne Association, which is one of the largest social service agencies in the city, providing services to the prison population, or all facets of the prison population. And so it was really in seminary that I discovered my prison ministry work and the work of restorative justice, which has been one of the most profound engagements, professional engagements and personal engagements I've had in terms of my service. Yeah, so
Wow.
that came right out of seminary, and we were just so fortunate when I contacted Osborne to just let them know I was looking to volunteer. What were the options as a minister in training, as someone with a clinical background. I immediately got routed to this pilot project that was being launched to train people in this model, this restorative justice model, which is based on First Nations models of justice and healing. And I have to say, the work of sitting with people that have truly caused harm and made significant mistakes, and to continue to see their wholeness, their divinity, without minimizing the harm and really holding the shadow material, is very, very profound work. And it has cracked my heart open thousandfold. So I've been blessed to be able to do this work.
Well, that sounds like a beautiful experience. And that sounds like something I could do a whole other interview on, just that.
Yeah.
And I would love to do that at some point, but I would really like to hear about, how did you go from seminary to interspiritual counseling? What was your journey that took you from one to the next part, the next step?
Yeah. Well, as a function of my training in seminary and just the pathway, the trajectory of my own life, a ton of trainings, and I just was naturally and organically incorporating more and more modalities and spiritual techniques into my work. So that was just kind of organically happening. Then I guess it was about 9 years ago that Diane Burke approached Renee Reagan, who does the White Lions work with Diane, and Diane asked Renee to bring the Interspiritual counseling program up to the same level of professionalism as seminary. And so Renee at that point brought in Barbara Kinney, who was also part of my seminary class, who was a professor of psychology. The two of them really launched the bones of what became, this next incarnation of ISC. And I was involved from the beginning in terms of weighing in on the curriculum and being a guest presenter and a supervisor for the program. So I kind of got drafted at that in those early stages. And as a guest presenter, I was brought in to tackle the the big topics: how to work with trauma, how to work with big emotions, bringing in creativity. So I used to do quite a bit of guest presenting for ISC in that at that time. Renee and Barbara had always intended to come on board just to really launch this new initiative. They weren't planning to stay, just to kind of be the startup team. Mm-hmm. And so I was delighted when I got a call. It really was kind of simultaneously Renee, Michael Pagoda at the time, and Diane all saying, hey, are you interested in this position? Which was an immediate yes. And what was fantastic was that, and very unusual, was that both the director and the associate director were both leaving. So there was 2 positions open. And Sally Schwager, who was in my seminary class, and we've done the prison ministry work together. For years, we had been looking for ways to kind of deepen our work relationship because we love each other. And so when both positions became available, I immediately called Sally and said, hey, Sally, this is it. This is our opportunity to be a team. So it's been 6 years now that we've been, leading this new chapter, if you will, of ISC, and continuing to distill and deepen the curriculum. So it's between the 2 of us, we teach about 80% of the presentations.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you really fell into this. You were invited by Diane.
Yeah, I think, Diane, Michael, and Renee at the time. Yeah, so that was I was so humbled and so delighted.
Well, I know that you've made some big changes in ISC, that you've brought it up to a new level of professionalism, and you've changed some of the curriculum a little bit. Can you talk to us a little bit about what ISC is about, what it's like, what it's for? Just tell us about what you're doing there, because it's such an important program and so many beautiful things are coming out of it. I'd love to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, thank you. I think fundamentally what we hear from the students and what we witness is just a beautiful blossoming of self that happens in the program, both on a personal level and on a professional level. It's a very transformative 2 years. One of the mantras of the program is that you cannot companion people where you have not been yourself. So you need to be doing.
Very true.
And we are the vessel, both spiritually, emotionally. So it's really about growing presence and continuing to have a more consistent access to our own wholeness in order to companion others to find that place of wholeness within themselves. So we look at things like obstacles to presence, what gets in the way. And it's an ongoing kind of unpacking of that. So again, that's the personal work and the spiritual work. And then alongside that are just a plethora of skills, modalities, tools, sacred technology tools, all sorts of approaches and ways of companioning other people. And so we talk a lot about how to align ourselves with someone else's journey, not to oppose, but to really genuinely support someone in profound non-judgment, radical acceptance, boundless compassion, how to truly sit with someone, how to sit with suffering, that's really a challenge. Many people come to ministry and come to this work with really big hearts. And so to sit with someone else's pain and not exit, not find a way to distract or exit is big work. And so that's a lot of what we work on together, because it comes up even for experienced practitioners. This is an ongoing piece of our training.
Now, this sounds like these are skills and abilities that are extremely, extremely valuable for anyone in any kind of ministry, social work, or any kind of service position anywhere in the world. how do people apply what they've learned at the Interspiritual Counseling Program? What are some of the great successes that you've seen?
Yeah. So many people do come in with an interest in opening up a private practice, which
Mm-hmm.
people have done, and that's great. We also focus on group work skills, really kind of distilling and clarifying a personal niche, workshops, groups, that whole market. We have students who've applied the ISC skills to nonprofit organizations,
Mm-hmm.
to congregational life,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very significant place. And people have applied ISC skills in non-traditional ways. One of our students, Joanna Rush,
Yes.
has been offering these very profound one-woman shows about her
Mm-hmm.
own trauma and sexual abuse, and it led to just these very profound interactive audience experiences that she felt very challenged in terms of how to handle and how to respond. So she came to ISC to really look at like how she could be in service to what was kind of coming onto her plate.
Mm-hmm.
We have people who've applied the skills to education and spiritual formation programs within their places of worship. So there's lots of different ways.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
of our students has opened up a spiritual retreat center in Sedona,
Mm-hmm.
Arizona. Jonathan Hammond is leading programs in various parts of the world, and really felt that ISC was a very significant support
Mm-hmm.
and instigator, if you will, of really launching his career, this chapter of his career. So people are using the work in many different ways.
Yeah, it sounds like people are able to take what they've learned and the skills that you're teaching and really apply it to any area of ministry or social work that they choose to engage in going forward, that it really does translate and dovetail into any and all modalities going forward. And that's really, really amazing. What a fantastic, valuable program you're leading for us here. And thank you so much for doing that. And do you have any plans for the future? What is happening with ISC? I know you've got a new group of students coming in next year, and they're all very excited to get started.
Yeah, we're interviewing now. Where it's always a fun time to see. We are always amazed, and I think this is true for seminary as well, as to who shows up, like who walks through the door. We just are so blessed at One Spirit to have just such amazing people from all over the world. So we're in the interview process. We're in an interesting place now because we're no longer a semester program. We're in an annual format. And so that for the first time now, we have the opportunity again to kind of periscope up, review the sequencing of the programming, because we were kind of locked in. We couldn't make too many changes because it meant one cohort of students either would get duplication or they would miss important classes when we were in the semester format. Now we have the year, we have an opportunity to really look at how we sequence material. So we're really excited about having things kind of weave in and out throughout the course of the year. We're developing a prayer curriculum. We find that there's a lot of interest in really exploring prayer, how all different forms of prayer, and how to get more comfortable with either offering prayer or understanding different forms of prayer and how they might be meaningful for someone else's journey. So we're excited. This coming year has great focus on the kind of these big curriculum units. Sally does a beautiful job on the whole exploration of faith formation, how we grow and evolve spiritually. And we look at Fowler and Mabry and Bastian and Wigglesworth. Like we just do a whole faith formation piece. We do a big plunge into the creative modalities in spiritual counseling and the somatic modalities. So it's a very exciting upcoming year.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It really is exciting. So people are applying now. So if people are interested, they should get their applications in Sooner rather than later, I guess, is what they need to do.
You know what's great about sooner rather than later is it helps us plan for our
Hmm.
staffing needs.
Okay.
So yeah, that's always a good thing. Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Therese, we are just about out of time. So I want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your really, really busy schedule. I know that you're busy this time of year. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for giving such a wonderful, wonderful interview and
Uh,
sharing so authentically with us.
uh, Thank you. It's my deep pleasure to be with you and One Spirit, my spiritual home. So thank you. Thank you for all the wonderful work you're doing. You've been doing an exceptional job in your role as, let me see if I'm going to get your title right, Alumni Engagement Coordinator.
Almost graduate engagement. I can't get it right either. So.
Yes,
But
right.
thank you so very much for doing this. And thank you for everything that you do for One Spirit. And thank you for all of the work that you do in the world as well. It's been a real pleasure. And I will look forward to working with you in the coming year.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
Therese.
lovely day. Bye
You
bye.
too. Bye bye.